Hey guys, happy Wednesday. So Valerie Hunt, RunRx, Ask Me Anything. So I've had two questions that I'm going to answer this week. And the first question is probably related to the second. But the first question is people are saying, I'm doing the pulling and it's hard for me to pull my foot that high and that fast, trying to hold that cadence. And so that's the first question. And then the second question was, now that I'm trying to fall and pull, I'm running faster, my heart rate's up, how do I breathe? So both great questions. So the first question I'm going to talk about is about pulling the foot. And this is really, really important. So when you practice is an exaggeration. Drills are exaggerated in order for you to do natural movement. So the point of the drills is to develop strength, to develop elasticity, to develop your ability to pull your foot quickly. However, height of pull is not to do with you. And that's a challenge because in place, right, we practice pulling all the way to pose. So the running pose is often called the figure four. From the hip down, if you note, your thigh bone points down, your hamstring is holding this leg up. Your hamstring does that, not you. You are controlling only what happens on the ground. So my foot right now is on the ground. So what happens during running is my body weight travels forward and I pull my foot up to recover the running pose. And then I can continue that as far as I want. As fast as I want, depending on how much fall I can hold. However, if you actually try to run by pulling the foot all the way to pose, then you would take about 4 or 5 steps and already be fatigued because the muscle would be tired. And when you try to pull your foot all the way to pose, it's like putting a 30-pound weight on your ankle and then going out for a run. So it doesn't really make any sense. So the difference happens here. When you run, you only break contact with the ground. You have to let go of the foot and allow the hamstring to finish the pull. Okay? So that's so important just to think it. But it's a whole nother thing to do. So I'm going to show you a visual to help you with that. Okay? All right, so I'm going to put this little band on. And most people have one of these little bands. Ideally, when you're running, what's happening is this. Your foot is literally pulling probably even less than this. Up, 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 up. All you ever feel when you run is the foot touching the ground. So then your response to that has to be up. But I'm not looking for the ground. I'm not trying to put my foot down. My body's traveling forward. I'm pulling to keep up with my body. My foot is actually unweighted. Now, in this little space in this drill, my foot doesn't ever pull up any higher. Again, why? Because we are not going anywhere. We're really in place right now. I'm still actively pulling the foot. Remember, it's a drill. So what happens though is you have to train yourself to have muscle elasticity and understanding that that's really what you're doing when you run. And then when you actually run, you have that same amount of effort in your pull, but you're falling, and so watch. The foot will pull higher because my hamstring will respond to my body falling, and it closes the leg and brings my ankle up under my hip. That's what your hamstring does. Pulls the foot. Then as soon as it gets here, you know what it does? Drops it. And when that foot drops, you have less than 1/10 of a second to make sure you're ready to be caught, if you will. So you're in a constant state of this like hot potato, but you only have one side of it. So what that means is as I'm pulling my foot up, gravity's bringing the other one down. So I have to be pretty quick in my ability both to pull and to let go of the foot. So in the beginning, a lot of you guys are trying to do both jobs. You're not just pulling the foot, you're also putting this one down. So then you're running by pulling and landing. And then you're like, whoo, my heart rate's up, my legs are tired, I can't breathe, and I didn't even go anywhere, right? So there has to be a level of training to understand what I'm supposed to be feeling when I run. So if you get the mindset and understanding that in place, when we're standing still, you absolutely have to do all of the work yourself. It's you doing it. So this is an active pull. And yesterday I showed you guys the difference of pulling ankle up under hip versus kicking back. So if you take your foot and you kick back, one, look, watch what happens to your upper body. You see, it's like a counterbalance. Everything has a response. So if you kick back and you take your shoulders will go forward, your hamstring's really loaded, and then unfortunately, all you're going to be able to do during run is kick back and watch what this foot does. If you kick the other foot back, you see, this one landed, and I'm still not in my running pose. So it doesn't make any sense to practice an action that's not going to help me with my run. Same with high knees. A lot of you guys like to do these high knees, and it's the same thing. It's not a bad exercise to stand still and do. However, if I lift my knee, I'm not in pose either, and I can't fall. So if I change feet, I can still pull and switch feet, but if I try to run like that, it's called the confused runner. You've got your upper body going one direction, you're trying to tell your legs go somewhere else, and your brain's like, I don't know what's going on. So both of those are going to cause extra work, extra fatigue in the muscles. You've got to just do one action, practice your pulling, but then be okay with when you run, you only pull the foot up from the ground. Let the height happen based on your angle of fall. So you can have fun with that in your practice. So if you're following along on the 30-day reboot, we have the single and the triple pull. So try it. I mean, if you just fall and pull, your foot will pull as high as it needs to that running pose. So that was a big question. So remember, in practice, yes, pull all the way up. When you run, only break contact with the ground. Let's see. All right, they just put all the questions up. All right, let's see if I can read these. Does this running technique you're using translate into sport? Sure. Breathing? Sure. Is it possible to use this method to run slow? Because once I pull my leg, I get faster. Okay. All right, so here's some great questions. Let me answer those. So someone asked me, one, does this running translate into sport? Absolutely. Sports have a specificity to them, so there's things that you might need to do for specificity, but when you're running, running is running is running. So that's important to understand. So absolutely, if you play a sport, learn to run correctly. It will only benefit you in your sport. And in fact, if you guys watch sports, like let's just say football, either one, football or soccer, lots of running in both of those, and watch those guys run, every single one of them. Well, a lot of them wear spikes, right? Where's the spike? Not on the heel, it's on the ball of the foot. Most of them, when they're running down the field, holding a football or trying to kick the ball, when they're actually running, they are 100% pulling their foot up from the ground. Almost every other sport does drills like quick feet. Why? To help the players pull their feet quick, get off the ground. You hear coaches yelling, get off the ground. Pick up your feet. That's what coaches yell. They don't say, stay on the ground. No, when you're on the ground, you're not moving, right? The other thing someone said or asked is, I'm not feeling my hamstring. Well, good. You should not feel anything during your run except for a light tap when your foot touches the ground. When you're running just in place, hear that tap? I'm not feeling any muscles. I'm using muscle elasticity. My hamstring, I'm using 10% of my hamstring. So if you are feeling your hamstring while you run, guys, it's generally because unfortunately you're kicking back or you're over pulling. So if I'm doing this, I'm feeling my hamstring. However, I'm limiting myself on being able to travel. let your muscles show off. Like your hamstring already knows how to finish the pull. All you need to do is pull the foot up from the ground. That's it. And here's the thing. So what am I actually sensing? Someone just said I get blisters when I run. And I have, if you look at the bottom, this is really popular, right? If you go to the running shoe store and they'll say, oh, bring in an old pair of shoes, and then we can see how your shoe wears. And then it really helps us to see what you do when you run and pick out your shoes. So if you're getting blisters or you really wear out one part of the shoe, you have to think to yourself, my foot is moving in ways that maybe it shouldn't. So, you know, with the shoe itself, you should be able to spread your toes. You should have enough space in that toe box to spread your toes, wiggle your toes. Not lots of room between the toe and the end, but definitely room for my feet to spread out. That's so important, one. And the second thing is you have to let go of looking for the ground. And I say this all the time. If you can sense that you're landing on the outside of your foot, then you're landing. See what I mean? When I'm running, I don't have time to look for the ground. I know it's there, I can see it. When I'm running, I'm falling and I'm pulling when I feel my foot touch the ground. That's the difference. That's the perception that you have to create and develop. And in the beginning, it's challenging because you've been looking for the ground forever. And the other thing that's hard is we can't feel the air. What do I mean by that? Well, right now when you're standing, you have both feet on the ground. You can only feel the ground. And if we were to jump, so everybody just jump, what did you feel? Well, you felt when you left the ground and you felt when you came back, but for a split second when you were hang timing in the air, you couldn't really do anything. Now if I jump and try to move my legs in the air, let's see. It's a work, but it didn't help me. Like if I wanted to jump up and touch that, it wouldn't help me to jump up and then try to pedal my legs. It would just bring me right back to the ground. So if I'm trying to move my legs in the air, then unfortunately it's just going to bring me back down to the ground. So in running, it's so important because I have a very short time to have fun in the air, to do nothing, right? You're on the ground for about 1/10 of a second, and then hopefully you're right back off the ground. We cannot feel the air. So what happens then is you have to be patient and wait until it's time to pull. Now I say that, the faster you run, you have less and less time, right, to even have that thought. But when you're running just a regular run, like a 180 cadence, tempo, conversation pace, up, 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 up. And then when I fall and pull, it stays the same. I didn't switch to looking for the ground. So looking for the ground means you take your foot and you reach because you want to feel that extension part. If you want your legs separating in flight is called range of motion, which that's what you do hip openers for. That's why you do all the stretching, is so the ability for your legs to do this is there. But you don't do that. It's a natural thing. It's a natural byproduct. You can only do what happens on the ground, and what you hope is that when you're on the ground, your foot touches down and you respond by pulling. You gotta think, where am I falling to? And then allow yourself to pull the foot up. Okay, and then that's a great question. So I'm gonna talk about two things, the breathing and running speed. And by the way, the person, when you asked about sports and running, you know, it's about quick change of support, which is one of the earliest drills I give you guys is a ball of foot hop. It's the first drill. And it's the foundation of running. Not just running for a distance, but running in general, because running is free falling. And the quicker I can change support, the quicker I can move. Any speed, that's what's so important. So I have to get you guys to understand that, especially in the beginning. I'm just new to running, or I'm one of those people that I struggle with my running. You have to develop elasticity and strength in the foot. And it's important, it's simple, very simple, just learning how to hop. Now, if I was playing a sport, that hop gets turned into so many different drills. So just keep that in mind that, you know, people do sideways, they do forward, we do quick movements, quick pull sideways, right? All of this stuff is just to teach you and get you more and more comfortable with elasticity, using elasticity, any direction. See, once you start to use gravity to fall and accelerate, it doesn't matter which direction you go. I'm not even looking, I'm just gonna follow wherever my center of mass takes me. So keep that in mind, that it's not about the speed you're running, it's about your ability to change support. So all of us need to be using about 180 cadence in order to use muscle elasticity. Not all of us can get to 180 in our first run. The average running cadence is 160 to 165. And some of these runners have adapted to running at a low cadence, but they are running at a high pace. Could they be running at a higher pace? Yeah. And you need to think for yourself. Muscle elasticity reduces fatigue on the muscle and stress on the joints by 50%. So for me, it's like, I'd rather use elasticity and save my joints at any speed. So this is what, it's any speed. So when someone says I'm new or I'm slow, yay, because you don't have a bunch of bad habits. But the first thing you have to do is develop your ability to use elasticity and learn how to hop. And then learn how to hop and change support. See, it all goes in a progression. So even if I'm newer, I can still do a quick change of support. Then if I've been running, then I practice a little bit more. And then I can pull the foot a little bit higher because I can fall more. Then I practice more, and then the more I practice and get comfortable with falling and pulling in response to the fall, then you get to choose your fall angle and how fast you want to run. See what I mean? We should all be able to run, all of us, just with enough fall to pull. What I mean by that is, if I'm here in place, I can fall just enough to actually start traveling, to initiate forward movement. Then it's a relationship, right? You want to go faster, sky's the limit. All of us have equal opportunity to use gravity, up to 22.5 degrees. It's insane. Most of us are using 0 to 1. When people come through RunRx and they send in a gait analysis, I watch them run. They have the potential to use somewhere like 6 to 10 degrees, and they're using 0. You know why? Well, A, because they don't know, number one. But second, because they're trying to reach in the air. So what happens, they reach, and then if I land on the ground here, and I have to wait to get to pose, I missed out on my opportunity to fall. So some of the effort you guys are feeling in your run, like breathing, like my legs are heavy, you will correct all of that by letting go of that reaching thought and literally just doing the fall pull. I did want to say something about breathing. One of the reasons that running is a cardiovascular sport, so that's okay that you're breathing hard. It's a positive. But however, you want to be able, of course, to run any pace you want, right? If I want to do a conversation run, obviously if you're racing or trying to run faster, I hope you're not trying to talk, but that is when the breathing is even more important, right? Because I'm actually holding a higher angle of fall. I need more oxygen. So one of the things to get comfortable with is, one, to get comfortable with the thought of breath matching my pace and my fall. So exhale fully to have more space for air to come in. And then also remember that you breathe more like an accordion. And so when, like if I have this here, I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna try to break the band sideways. If I breathe this way, then I'm not breathing up into my shoulders. My shoulders and neck need to be relaxed. So this is actually a great breathing drill. You could just, use a band or use your hands and just feel that you can run. I can feel. And what'll happen is Now, I don't get into running with the nose or the mouth. Which one do I want? Both, whichever one works, especially, that is, the more you relax in your running, the more you naturally will breathe in through your nose and probably exhale through your mouth. But try again to not worry about it. When you're practicing breathing drills, you can do all that. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Focus on that belly breath. But understand that when you're running, you want a steady breath, right? So don't hold your breath. And then full exhale. When you start to feel winded, let it out. Release tension. Try to get as much tension out as you can. So when you're running, if you're really thinking about where's my fall point and I'm just pulling, I should have a lot less tension in my shoulders. But be okay with breath. Like you're running and your heart rate's up and you're breathing, it's okay. Make some noise. Really full exhales help. So again, if you are struggling with the heart rate, so that was the last question I saw. If you're struggling with the heart rate, then stop a second and reset. But see if you can just play even with your fall point. Because like I said, if I can fall just enough to initiate forward movement and pull my foot, I should be able to continue. But be okay with, I need to stop and reset. I need to stop and check in. I promise the more you do that, the less you will need to. But as you're developing awareness especially, and just new sensations, new feelings, give yourself that grace. I know that in my early days of training, before I knew about running technique, and I was training for my first marathon, everybody's like, you gotta go out and you gotta run 20 miles, you gotta run these miles, you gotta run. And we would do things like stop our watch if we had to take a break, because we didn't have Garmin's or anything. And I was like, it doesn't count, I'm just standing here right now. And it was such a, I don't want to say a fail, but kind of like you really thought I'm supposed to be running for 20 miles, not stopping, even if it hurts, just keep going. And then this guy came out, Galloway, that started telling people, no, you can walk, it's okay. And then we got this whole new movement of running. And so, it's amazing because my first marathon was 22 years ago. And all of the things that's changed with training watches and shoes and gears and you name it, whatever, the reality is running itself hasn't. And so the more you start training for running just to run, you'll start to think less about I'm slow, I'm fast, and you'll think more about maybe today I could hold a little bit more fall and surprise yourself. Explore your potential. That's where people are missing. If you already categorize yourself as I'm slow, I'm injured, I have tight hips or whatever it is, you're limiting. And the reality is the practice is really simple, y'all. It's just the consistency of it, and the thinking of it. So get into that habit. I'm going to practice just that running pose. In place, I understand that it's very aggressive, but then when I run, how low and quick can I pull? And the more you start to integrate those three things, it really does start to come together. But definitely if you're sore, if you're feeling the hamstrings or hips or whatnot, add some extra rolling and stretching. If you're doing the 30-day reboot, we have so many good stuff. I mean, it's got stretches, it's got strength, and it's got skill. It's got all three things. Great way to get started. Check in on your practice. And of course, we have the free quiz if you haven't taken it. So if you're experiencing any pain at all in your run, please take that quiz, and it really does help you to maybe see if something's going on. And then, of course, we'd love to have you come in and go all the way, show us your run, show us your check-ins, and progress in your training. But I'm here every Wednesday, so reach out with questions, and I'll look forward to answering them. Have a great week, guys. Thank you.